Robert Rowe. My wife named my apiary Bob's Bees, and we are at Miss Effie's You Pick Flowers in just outside of Donahue. I have 3 hives here. 2 of them are Langstroth style hives. The third one is a top bar, which is, they believe, is more of a natural way of having bees. I've been doing it for about 10 years now. And a little bit about the bees. The bees that are here, I bought as packages last spring out of Evert Bees in Mount Vernon, Iowa. The queens are hybrids. They're a cross between Italian and Carnolian. There are quite a few different types of bees throughout the United States and the world. Originally, bees were not native to the United States. They were brought over by the settlers to Plymouth Rock and brought in through that way. The honeybees were. There were other style bees that were already here. In agriculture, being as we're out here in this northern Scott County, there's a lot of agriculture here that involves corn, which is kind of like a desert to bees because there's no pollen or nectar that they can collect. But there's a lot of soybeans around here, which are right at this time of year are just starting to bloom, and the bees will be able to collect a lot of nectar from them. At Miss Effie's here, she has a large amount of flowers that's watered all the time, and they collect a lot of nectar from them. We took some honey off of them, about 60 pounds of honey off of them 2 weeks ago. Now, so far this year, I've gone from 11 hives to I've got a little over 40. So, and they're across the northern Scott County, all the way from Big Rock to not quite the lake next to Big Lake, the other side of Eldridge, Crow Creek Lake, or Lost Grove Lake. And I've got them on several different people's property that have asked me to bring them out. The most I have in one place is, I believe, 14 hives. The bees themselves, the hives will go anywhere from 10,000 bees in them up to 60 to 80,000 bees in a hive. The hives that we'll be looking at today probably have anywhere around 40 to 50,000 bees in them. All right, now Rebecca and I'm suited up. We've got a full suit on. Mine is a 3-layer thick so that the bees don't come and sting through it. The 3 layers are ventilated, so it's a little bit cooler. Rebecca's unlucky, hers isn't cooler, and hers is 1 layer thick. So hopefully they don't get too ornery today. Now we're going to use a smoker. The smoker makes them want to come out at us less. They seem to go in, start eating up some of the honey that is stored in the hive, and they pay more attention to it than they do us. Now these are 2 Langstroth hives. There is a 3rd hive down here at the end, which is called a top bar hive. Some people think it's more of a natural way of beekeeping. It's a cheaper hive to make. They have them in Africa. They have them all over 3rd world countries in order to produce honey. The Langstroth hives are produced so that we can take honey off them easier. When we get into the hives, we'll look at the foundation and that's in it, and this is what the bees build on. We put the plastic cell foundation in it along with the frames that it's mounted to, and then the bees build out their comb on the foundation and put the honey into it. So we'll smoke them here a little bit, and you'll hear the pitch of the bees change. Uh-oh. Yep, we still got some smoke. And then we'll pop them open.
So the smoke makes them, they think that there's a fire inside?
Yes, they think that there's a fire, and they're going to suck up all the honey that they can in case they have to fly to another location. So this is an inner cover. We took the outer cover off. This is inner cover, and we've got bees on it. Now we'll... Okay, now this is the frame that we put in. And as you can see, it's a plastic foundation that's got the size of the comb on it. Now we'll move over a couple. And this is raw honey. It's all capped so that that's where it come off. The next was connected to the next frame. If I was taking honey off, I'd take this. We would take a knife, cut the sides of it, both sides of it off, set it in a centrifuge and spin it. And that's where you get your honey. Now we'll go down a little lower here into the bees.
How heavy is one of those?
Those are probably 35 pounds.
35 pounds.
These here will probably go upwards about 50. Them are 6 5/8 deep. These are 9 5/8 deep. These bottom two. This one here's plumb full of honey. It will, I should take it off this week.
How often do you have to take them out and clean out all the honey?
I do it several times a year because I took off 2 weeks ago. I took off about 250 pounds, which is close to 23, 24 gallons. And then I put the frames back on after it's spun out so they don't have to remake the comb, because it's actually the comb in here is more valuable than the honey, because it takes 7 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of comb. Now this is down in where they'll have the brood at, or the babies. Now this area here is honey that they've got stored, and this here in the center is all the brood, or the baby worker bees. These will come out. The average bee will last anywhere from 1 week to 40-45 days is the life expectancy on the bees. They will either be eaten by a bird, hit by a car, or just wear themselves out. We'll go through here a little further. Okay, that one they're filling with honey. This is all brood on this side.
Can we see the honey side again?
They're just starting to pack it away. See, you can just see the shininess in it. And what that is as soon as it gets down to about 18%, they'll cap it like this up here is. Honey will last forever as long as it's capped. I know everybody'd like to see the queen, if we can come on to her.
What is the queen?
The queen is the one that lays all the eggs. All these, 90% of these bees are female. This one right here, this is what they call a drone. He is a lot bigger. He's the male bee. There might be 5 to 10% of the bees inside the hive will be males. The rest will all be females. Now the queen lays anywhere up to 2,000 eggs a day. Okay, this one here's got some drone brood on it. Now you've seen how flat the last brood was. This brood has got domes to them. These are drones. These will be the male. You seen how many was on that last frame? Like this one here. These are all female worker bees. These is how many males will be in that hive. Now come the end of the year, October, 1st of November, they will kick all of the drones out of the hive. Okay, they're packing it full of honey as the bees are hatching. Okay, there's eggs in this one, so the queen could be here close. And she should have a blue mark on her back. What we do is, in order to identify the queens, we will mark them, and that way we can find them quicker. And sometimes we can't find them at all.
How do they form the combs?
The comb is formed from beeswax that they produce in a gland. At a certain age, the bee will produce the wax, and then they can make the comb. This one here is another one that's just full of honey. And then on this side, it's got more worker bees.
How much honey can one of those hold?
These here will hold probably about 4 pounds of honey.
4 pounds. Do you sell honey locally?
Yes, I sell it through Miss Heffy's You Pick Flowers, Maxwell's Dairy, and now in at the depot in Donahue. Down the honey that's in there. This hive here, this top bar hive, is actually the swarm off this one. Kathy called me when she seen them all swirling around. They went about 20 feet up the tree and swarmed a great big ball. And I brought a box out, climbed up the tree, knocked them into the box, and set them into that hive and brought it out to her. Now, we're going to look at this white box because I had several people ask me about comb honey. So we are trying to form some comb honey. And what comb honey is we take, rather than having the plastic cell foundation, we use an actual wax, beeswax foundation, and set down into it. Now, it doesn't look like they're starting to form it yet. See, this here is actually a beeswax foundation that is embossed. And hopefully, fairly soon, oh, they're starting on this one here. Come on up here. Okay. Now you can see right here, they're starting to build their own wax out on top of this beeswax foundation. And when they fill that with honey, then that will make comb honey, and we'll just cut it into squares. And probably most of these young ladies and gentlemen, their grandparents probably grew up eating comb honey, and they chew the wax just like bubble gum. Out.
So do the bees typically go from...
Right there's a queen.
Oh.
This one right here. She's going around there. Okay, now this is all honey that is getting down. You can see how it's capped here, so that's down around 18%. And the rest of it, they are starting to, the walls are starting to get thick, so they're starting to seal it up. So it should be around 17, 16, 17, 19, 20% water content. If you ever get honey in your house that is crystalline, because honey crystallizes, all you have to do is put it in a dish of hot water and it will reform into the regular honey. They have found honey in the pharaoh's tombs and it's still good. So honey pretty much lasts forever.
Doesn't really ever go bad.
Doesn't really ever go bad. The only way it can spoil is if it gets mold or mildew. And it gets that because it's got too much moisture content to it. This here, down in the bottom, you can see different colors. This is the pollen that they bring in off the flowers and trees. And they have to have the pollen, they mix the pollen with the nectar or honey, and that's what they feed the babies. If you look, if you can see down in here, the white, that's after the egg hatches. Egg will hatch in 2.5 to 3 days. It'll lay down and forms a larva. The larva gradually grows as the worker bees feed it, and then as it gets up, like this one here, they're starting to fill that in, fill in the top of it, make the same thing as a butterfly chrysalis, and the larva inside spins a web, and then at 21 days she'll eat the top out of that wax cap and crawl out, and we've got another bee here.
How can you tell the difference between the pollen and honey?
Honey, it is like this. This is honey. The pollen has all these different colors in it, and that's the different colors of flowers that are out there that it is that they're collecting the nectar, the pollen from. The first trees in the spring that they start collecting pollen from is probably the maples, and then they go on and start. A lot of people don't like them, but honey locusts and black locusts are very much have a flower that the bees really like and they really go to.
If you were to get stung by a bee, does it hurt really bad? Like, do you have to get treatment for it, or how do you?
If you are allergic to bees, yes, you have to get treatment for it. I know a few people that had to go to the hospital because it affected their breathing. Their throat started to swell up. A lot of people will get a local inflammation. Like if you get stung in the cheek or something, it'll swell up. If I get stung over the eye, my eye might swell up. But for me, anywhere else, I just get what I call a hot spot. I can feel it. It doesn't really hurt. It just feels like a real warm spot. Now, on honeybees, when a honeybee stings, it leaves its stinger in you. And you should take either a fingernail and scrape it, or a credit card or something like that to scrape it out, because it actually pulls the back of the bee apart, and that little sac on the end of it keeps pulsating and keeps pumping its venom into you. So you want to try and get that out as soon as possible. like I say, your mom, your dad, whoever, can just take a credit card and scrape it out, or take a long fingernail. Most moms have long fingernails and just scrape it. And that helps the best. Now we're going to open these up, and this is a top bar, and these are all top bars. They've got wax underneath of them. As you can see, I've put a starter strip in that's got wax on it, and they'll build off of that starter strip. Go down here a little ways. Yeah, they're starting to mess up. I should have been out with this before. Let's break this one apart. Okay. Now this is a top bar, and it's got all the brood hanging on it. But see, we have to go like this in order to turn it over, because otherwise it'll fold one way or the other. These are all brood again on both sides of it, with honey in the top. Let's blow on this a little bit. No, they don't have eggs in the bottom. I was hoping I could find some eggs for you in this one. Okay, again.
You can see the honey dripping.
Yep. That's the honey dripping down on it. That's the good stuff. And this will be just like that all the way to the other end.
Do you have to process the honey at all, or is it as soon as it comes off of these?
As soon as it comes off, that comb's just hanging there. I won't be able to get the end. What you do, or what I do, is the honey that come off the hives that I took off today will go back, and the cappings will be cut off of it. And then it will be put into a centrifuge and spun. Now the only thing we do after that is we run it through several strainers, and then it's ready to be consumed. It's considered raw honey. Most people want local raw honey because they say it helps their allergies, and from what I understand, if you're diabetic, you can use it too, because it's already been processed out of the sugar form, so it's easier. The only thing you don't want to do is give it to a baby under a year and a half, because there's something in it that the baby does not have the enzymes in its stomach to digest it, and it could harm them.
Are there any predators that honeybees have?
Yes, raccoons, possums, skunks are notorious for just sticking their foot in the front and digging the bees out and eating the bees. North, black bears and that like it, but they have to, out in their areas, they put electric fences around to keep the bears away. Don't know what else. As you can see, I'm standing here without a cover up on, and they aren't too bad. They'll fly around me. If you get close to a swarm, please leave it alone. They aren't, the swarm itself, if it's hanging in a tree or on a bush, they don't want to sting you, but they will. They're protecting their queen, They aren't as apt to sting because they don't have babies, brood, or honey to protect, but they do have a queen to protect. So they don't want you messing with them. You should call somebody, the Quad City Bee Club around here. You can contact them and they'll come out to get it if they can. If you have them in a barn or in the side of a house, we can come out and look at it and try and take them out. You're better off with them gone, the house opened up or the barn opened up, and then the honey taken out, because if it's left in there, it will mold. And I went to a place in Wilton that it was running down the side of the brick. The hive had died, and the heat from the summer was pushing it down the side of the brick, which that would have just made a bit mess and collected more bees there. So if you can, leave the honeybees alone. Now, for crops, there are hundreds of thousands of Langstroth hives that are taken to California every spring, like January, February. The almond groves out there are huge, and but they are what they refer to as a monoculture. The bees only get certain nutrients from them as they're pollinating them. The almonds are almost exclusively pollinated by honeybees, and they come from all over the country for it. You'll see them running down the interstate with up to 400 hives on a semi-trailer, headed for California. Then they move them to the apples up in Washington, Oregon area. They move them over to the cranberry fields. They move them to the blueberry fields, and they just pollinate. 80% of the food that we consume is pollinated by some type of bee. Here in Iowa, my bees have a large amount of different vitamins, minerals that are coming into the hive because they've got so many different things to take their pollen from. Here at Miss Effie's, they've got all the different types of flowers. We've got a bean field right here that they will be going to soon and help pollinate it. Beans don't need a pollinator, from what I'm told, but a pollinator brings up the bushels per acre for the farmers. The hay, alfalfa, clovers are all pollinated by honeybees. Which the hay and alfalfa clover feed our cattle, which gives us beef. Like I said at the beginning, the corn is a desert for them, being as there is no pollen in them. And I think we have covered quite a bit. If you have any questions, your teacher can always give me a call and I'll try and answer them, or she can email me, and we can try and do it that way, and I can get the answers back to you.
Thank you so much, Bob, for today, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming out.